In this tutorial, we'll continue our examination of the techniques of musical variation, but turn now to harmonic and contrapuntal aspects. Keep in mind, however, that melodic variations often suggest or even dictate how we may vary the harmony, and we'll demonstrate this shortly in our very first example. As in the previous tutorial, we'll use America, God Save the King, as the theme for our examples. First, let's consider a rather conventional reharmonization that substitutes secondary dominants, secondary subtonics, and different chord inversions for the original diatonic harmonies. We mentioned that melodic changes can affect our harmonization. The alternative ending here shows just how such a melodic alteration, from A natural to A flat on the downbeat of the penultimate bar, allows us to introduce a Neapolitan sixth chord, the major chord between the tonic and the supertonic. Now let's put the tune in the tenor to create what is by one definition a faux burden. Note how as an inner voice we are able to cast it in the relative minor without any alteration to the tune. We'll look now at a couple of conventional contrapuntal techniques. We reduce the texture to two voices in this example of the tune with a descant. Imitation or even canon can form an entire variation or serve as an introduction to one. For this to be practical, we may need to alter the tune somewhat, as we see in this example. Let's try something a bit less traditional now. We'll start by recasting the tune in the pentatonic major and pentatonic minor modes. We retain the overall contours and rhythmic figurations, but eliminate the fourth and seventh degrees of the diatonic major scale to form the pentatonic major, and the second and sixth degrees of the natural minor scale for the pentatonic minor. When harmonizing a pentatonic tune, we are not at all restricted to the pitches of the pentatonic scale from which the tune is constructed. Depending on circumstances, all diatonic and chromatic tones may be admissible. Let us now transform the tune modally. As with the pentatonic transformations, The harmonization is not limited strictly to the tones of the mode in question. We'll begin with the Dorian mode. In this mode, the semitones fall between the 2nd and 3rd scale degrees and the 6th and 7th. In this example, the only tone foreign to the mode is at the deceptive cadence in bar 6, where there is a B flat in the bass. Let's try the Phrygian mode now. Here the semitones are between the 1st and 2nd and the 5th and 6th degrees. This harmonization employs no pitches foreign to the mode. Next is the Lydian mode, where the semitones are between the 4th and 5th and 7th and 8th degrees. Here, too, our harmonization introduces no pitches external to the mode. And finally, the Mixolydian mode, with semitones between the 3rd and 4th and 6th and 7th scale degrees. The F sharp in bar 3 eliminates the implication of a dominant 7th chord, while the D sharp and F sharp in bar 4 are part of the dominant of a submediant that resolves deceptively. If not done to excess, the occasional parallel harmony can provide moments of contrast in texture. Our example features primarily first inversion triads, and for some metrical variety, we've set the tune in 5/4. We now examine some modern techniques of harmonization. Vincent Persichetti's book, 20th Century Harmony, presents an excellent introduction to them and offers more insight into their application than we can here in this tutorial. Quartal chords are stacks of fourths. Like conventional chords, they can be inverted. Fourths become fifths, and the sevenths, formed by the conjunction of 2/4, become seconds. They may be interspersed with regular tertian chords. In our examples, look out for harmonic fifths and seconds and try to spot the inverted triads. As in tertian harmony, we may encounter non-chord tones, passing notes, upper and lower auxiliaries, etc. Seconds and or sixths may be added to a tertian chord for color. The final chord of the first example here features the added second. We have two variants here, one in which the tune is in the bottom voice, the other in the top. Both are in the Mixolydian mode. Now to secundal harmony. Here pitches form a cluster of seconds above, below, or around a melodic element. They may, however, be transposed to another octave or inverted to form a seventh. Because both may contain seconds and sevenths, secundal and quartal harmonies may be effectively combined. As we found in other idioms, non-chord tones are acceptable and, in fact, are desirable. Here the tune features inflections for the Phrygian mode. Polytonality, the simultaneous presentation of two or more tonalities, is the feature of this variation. The spacing between the upper line in G major and the lower in F lessens the harshness of the two tonalities sounding together. At each iteration of the tune, we enrich the harmonic texture with an additional voice. First, we'll add E minor, then C major. In polychordal harmony, we perceive two or more distinct chordal units. For this distinction to be possible, there needs to be some space between the upper, lower, and any other chords, although this is less of a concern when dealing with mixed timbres, such as high woodwinds on the upper chord and muted brass on the lower. We would not consider a dominant 11th chord, for example C-E-G, B-flat, D-F, a polychord, because we construe it as a single integrated unit. To avoid muddiness, we've set this variation in a rather high tessitura. Note that polychordal passages are not necessarily polytonal. Finally, let's experiment and develop our own scheme. How about simply substituting minor chords for the major ones of the original, and vice versa? For a greater feeling of finality, we'll leave the last chord in major. At times, it may be desirable to suspend harmonization for a moment, as we see here at the outset of the second phrase. To expand your arsenal of variation techniques, study as many scores as you can, keeping in mind that variations are found in many contexts, not just in pieces designated variations. You might look, for instance, at Bach's chorale settings in his Orgelbüchlein, or those of Marcel Dupré in his 79 chorales, Opus 28. This tutorial was produced, written, and narrated by Anthony St. Pierre.